Ladies and gentlemen, this is no ordinary train ride. The tracks are laid with secrets, the compartments are filled with lies, and somewhere on this journey, a killer is hiding in plain sight. I'm Detective Drayk, and tonight we're diving into a case that will leave you questioning every face, every clue, and every whisper. So, why should you keep watching? Because by the end of this ride, you'll realize the truth was never where you expected it to be. It all started on the 11:45 p.m. express to Blackwood, a luxury train, the kind where the rich and powerful ride in silence, sipping champagne and pretending not to notice each other. But that night, the silence was shattered by a scream. A woman was found dead in her private compartment, strangled, her face frozen in terror. No signs of forced entry, no weapon left behind, just a single clue, a ticket stub clutched in her hand, but it wasn't hers. As I stepped onto the train, the air was thick with tension. The passengers, a mix of businessmen, socialites, and a mysterious recluse, all had something to hide. I began my investigation, room by room, clue by clue. The first compartment belonged to Mr. Harold Grimes, a wealthy businessman with a temper. He claimed he was asleep, but his hands, they were trembling. Was it guilt or fear? Next I met Ms. Evelyn Hart, a glamorous socialite who seemed more interested in her reflection than the murder. But her alibi didn't add up. She said she was in the dining car, yet the staff didn't recall seeing her. And then there was the recluse, a man who called himself Mr. Smith. He barely spoke, but his eyes, they followed me everywhere. As I moved through the train, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me. The audience, you, were with me every step of the way. Remember when I opened that storage closet? You thought the killer might be hiding there, didn't you? But all I found was a stack of old newspapers, or so it seemed. Buried beneath them was a conductor's uniform, stained with blood. The conductor, a man named Thomas, was missing. The staff claimed he'd left the train at the last station, but I wasn't convinced. I followed the trail to the engine room, where I found Thomas, dead. His body was slumped over the controls, a note in his pocket. I couldn't let her tell the truth. But who was her? The victim or someone else? The pieces weren't fitting. I returned to the victim's compartment, searching for anything I might have missed. That's when I noticed it, a small, almost invisible scratch on the window. It led me to a hidden compartment beneath the seat. Inside was a diary, filled with entries about blackmail, secrets, and a plan to expose someone on the train. The final entry was written just hours before her death. I know who you are, and tonight, everyone else will too. The killer had to be someone who knew about the diary, someone who couldn't afford to be exposed. I gathered the passengers in the dining car, ready to reveal the truth. But just as I was about to name the killer, the lights went out. A gunshot rang through the darkness. When the lights came back on, Ms. Evelyn Hart was dead, a gun in her hand. It seemed like an open and shut case. She was the blackmailer, and she'd taken her own life. But something felt off. Why would she kill herself in front of everyone? And why was the gun in her right hand when she was left-handed? The real killer was still on the train, and as I looked around the room I realized the truth. It was Mr. Smith, the recluse. He'd been playing the long game, framing Evelyn to cover his tracks. But before I could arrest him, he jumped from the moving train, disappearing into the night. So you see, this case was anything but simple. A web of lies, a trail of red herrings, and a killer who vanished into the shadows. But that's the thing about murder. It's never just about the victim or the killer. It's about the secrets we carry, the masks we wear, and the lengths we'll go to keep them hidden. The silent passenger was just the beginning.